I'm really excited to talk about this first story. The CEO of Jet.com, and if you don't know who this guy is, his name is Marc Lore.
Mark Lore, yeah.
He, I don't know if it's Lore or Loree, but whatever. This,
Lore is how you spell it. I think it's Mark
yeah,
Lore is
right,
his name.
like folklore.
Hmm.
What's really interesting about this guy is he was the CEO of Diapers.com. Amazon
Hmm.
Aqua hired them, which is a fancy way of saying they acquired the company, the holdings company that owned Diapers.com. And he became a part of Amazon. He was at Amazon for a
Right.
while. He left Amazon to start Jet.com. Fun story about Jet when it started. I want to say it was 2015, 2016. I was a customer like when they first started.
Hmm.
They were literally taking orders for household goods, and they had runners at their office who were running down to Target and Walmart to make purchases to fulfill these orders. They had no agreements, and on some level, like I can't recall off the top of my head if they had funding to start with or not. I love that we're just going to send it baby mentality. Like we're just, yep, we started an e-commerce company and we advertise all the stuff we sell and that you can get at Target. And what we're going to do is go down to Target and buy it and ship it to you.
So
And
so
they were
what you're
doing that.
saying is he was ahead of the curve of the send it to your house, the send it. And look, and a guy like this, entrepreneurial spirit, as they say, right?
Yeah, serial
A
entrepreneur.
serial entrepreneur, right, or whatever. And yes, and I think that's where you got. Look, this is, and you said aqua hire. I think is a great term that they should put in the book somewhere because you're right. Amazon bought his company Diaper.com to hire him and a lot of the people that he worked with. And
Right.
then he turns around and he starts Jet.com. Now, whether he starts it specifically to turn around and sell it again, which ultimately that's what we're talking about this, right?
Of
Jet.com,
course.
18 months later, gets picked up by Walmart, right?
Right.
Because Walmart was getting their butts kicked by Amazon.com. Now, we're talking 2016 here, right? So we're talking that ballpark 5 years ago.
Yeah, but it's
Walmart.com
still
was.
crazy. It's a still crazy notion to me that an 18-month-old company got purchased by Walmart for
Well,
$3
and it was
billion with
not
no
only for $3 billion,
infrastructure.
but that was a risky move back then. I remember when that happened, as far as the news articles going, hey, is Walmart doing the right thing here? Should they not be building their own right product? Because again, it was an aqua hire. They were, yes,
Right.
they bought Jet.com, but what were they really buying? They were buying
Marc
Mark
Lore.
Lore, right?
Yeah.
For $3 billion and all the people that were going into it, the infrastructure and everything else. And they took this company and then spliced their team up into, okay, CEOs and, right,
Yep.
executive team and app development team. And then you fast forward 4 or 5 years later, and what, 3, 4, 5 months ago, Walmart's come out with their own $98 a year like Amazon Prime
Yeah,
membership,
they're
right?
prime or whatever it is. Yeah.
And that not only have they done that, but they've also built the infrastructure to compete directly with Amazon, right? Especially in areas like mine, suburbia and stuff like that, where there's a Walmart everywhere. So he's done his job. Now, I think what was really they signed him, and these acqui-hire stuff that's gotten more popular, they've also got strings attached. His was an unnecessarily, at least for the industry, they made him sign a 5 year long stay, you know what I mean, stay contract.
Yeah, and I listen, I don't blame Walmart because if you look at a guy like Marc Lore in his
Mm-hmm.
history, if your entire point in or the majority point in hiring or acquiring rather Jet.com, 18-month-old property with barely any infrastructure and basically there wasn't a ton of assets that they were acquiring.
Right. Well, were
You
there
want
really
to
any?
Yeah, and you want to and the point was, and listen, to his credit, he did his job. I mean,
Right.
he built Walmart.com into the second largest e-commerce property in the United States of America, right behind Amazon. And because credit to Walmart for realizing that they didn't want to become Kmart. They didn't
Right.
want Amazon to do what Walmart did to Kmart, which was just put them out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And they realized, I think Walmart understood, like, hey, we have one thing that Amazon doesn't have is distribution points,
Everywhere.
right?
right? We've already invested in the property. We've already invested in the
Yep.
distribution centers. They
We have the
can run all
logistics.
of this out of their back, you know what I mean? The back door of
Yes.
their existing places.
And the future of what they can do is, I believe, is they can close probably half of their stores in the United States of America. And that is Walmart. They can close half their doors, convert the existing stores into warehousing, and just have a small, because they already have these at they built a newer Walmart one town over, and they already have this massive robot when you walk into the foyer of their store,
Right.
and it just says, okay, you just QR code, here's my item. It drags it down from wherever the heck. So Walmart is already looking towards the future. And Walmart, by the way, acquired other e-commerce platforms, or companies rather, like Bonobos, which
Mm-hmm.
is that super viral men's pants company. They sold chinos.
Yeah, look,
Um,
a company like Walmart or Target or whatever are going to go through phases of buying up brand names, because the brand names, once they get associated over time with Walmart, that brand name may lower, right? So you buy a new brand name that's pretty popular, decently popular. You mass produce it in the same way you've mass produced everything else, and you put it in your stores. You're again acqui-hiring. You're buying the name
yeah,
is what it has value to you. And again, it's a business model that guess what will work 50 years from now. It'll continue to work, right? And that kind
yeah,
of stuff. But like you said, I think you're going to see more and more of, why would a company, Walmart, HEB, right, grocery stores and stuff like that, continue to have their existing type of stores when every stat that we have, even before Dos Equis, by the way, but Dos Equis is
yes.
just, it just pushed it forward faster.
It
That
just threw gasoline on the fire. That's all it
right,
did.
foot traffic we knew statistically was going to diminish over the next decade
Right.
inside these stores. And I thought even before Dos Equis, that stores, Walmarts, grocery stores, HEBs and stuff were going to turn more into Sam's Club, Costco, warehouse looking stores. Why provide this big glamorous experience when nobody's
When
walking in, when
yeah,
just scale it down, right, to your warehouse looking store and have everybody sit out front, and then you're just
yeah,
paying employees to run around. And like you said with your Walmarts, I don't even think they have to close the stores. You take and remodel the store, make it 20% the size it is currently with your
yeah,
products that are high moving, and make the rest the warehouse. So why not keep
totally.
it both ways, where you don't have to close this Walmart, keep it, right? Just reduce the footprint of it, and then
Right.
make the rest of it warehousing and run everything out of it.
Well, the reason I say I think there could be a future of it where they close it is they have so many either underperforming stores. And this actually happened right next to us. There was a store, it wasn't in Cedar Park, but it was in North Austin, and they just closed it. This was 4 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
Because they had better performing stores. And if I'm Walmart, I go, yeah, you're right. You probably want a Walgreens size retail front, and then just all warehouse in the back where and the reason I think they close them is, why do you, if I'm Walmart, I go, I own all this real estate, I'll
Mm-hmm.
sell it.
Well,
Right,
and
I'll
sometimes they
sell it.
don't own it, right? Like in North Austin, they
That
may
could be
not have
true.
owned that location. They rented it, and we're
That's
like, you know
true.
what? I'm going to close this one because we rented it, and I'm going to, leave the one that I own down the street as
Yeah.
well, right? So there's a bunch of different factors that obviously can go into closing a store, and that kind of stuff. But I think the future is this. I think what he did to Walmart, everyone else should
.com.
do, right? Walmart.com.
Yeah.
Everyone else should move toward this model. Grocery stores, any kind of retailer. I think if you're a small retailer and you're still in a strip center somewhere, the overhead cost versus revenue, right, is unless you're in a place that the foot traffic is extreme, which again, Dos Equis knocked out your foot traffic anyway in those spots, right?
Right.
So I think it's a good model, and Walmart.com was smart enough. And again, it was a risk.
Yeah.
$3 billion is still a lot of money to Walmart. I mean, it's not,
Yeah, it's not nothing.
especially when they were getting their butts kicked, right, by Amazon, and they were looking forward and that kind of stuff.
And listen, the reason we're actually talking about this story As interesting as Jet.com's legacy will be for Walmart, and I will just add this, I actually think it was to Walmart's detriment to close Jet.com.
Sure. Well, now
And
it
I'll
just
tell you why.
redirects to Walmart. I actually tried it.
That's
It just
Yeah,
redirects to
no, that
Walmart.
it
Yeah.
redirects to Walmart. But the reason I say it was to their detriment is you're right. There is a bargain basement feeling to Walmart's goods. And if they're bringing a higher quality of goods to market, it benefits them just like the Japanese came to this country, Japanese automakers, and realized, okay, in Japan, yeah, if you go buy a Toyota Crown or the Toyota Aristo, that's a nice, people understand that that's a upmarket Toyota. But in the
Okay.
United States of America, if you want an upmarket Toyota, it has to be called something different. It has to be a Lexus.
Sure. Sure.
So in the United States, that just is how the consumer is trained. So I think I would have kept Jet.com, and it was Jet.com, and it was super techy, and it was purple, and I might have rebranded it to make it look a little more Walmarty, to maybe incorporate some more Walmart colors or something. But I would have kept that. I bought a pair of extremely hard to find Adidas Stan Smith Velcros off of Jet.com, and I couldn't find them anywhere else, and they were $40, and I was ecstatic. But we're talking about this because Marc Lore's contract with Walmart has come up.
Well, hold on. So before you get to that, I agree with you, and I think if we would have moved, if it was 2021, they wouldn't have closed it. Because what you've seen is places like Amazon in the last couple of years since then have bought certain websites like Woot, WOOT.com, used to be a discount version of everything. Amazon acquired them about 18 months ago, and now it's Woot brought to you by Amazon. So they integrated it, but they kept it its own thing. Right? They
Yeah.
utilize it as a discount version. So I think if they would have acquired Jet.com in the last couple of years versus 4, 5, 6 years ago, it would have been different. I think they would have kept that product. And I think that's what you're going to see more of going down the road is when they acqui-hire these places, they're going to keep that brand and just integrate it just a little bit, brought to you by, powered by, whatever. And so you keep those customers for that niche market.
Well, like Bonobos, which is owned by Walmart, is just Bonobos. It's not right. But what Walmart offers is a logistics powerhouse.
Right.
And because they are similar to Amazon, but before Amazon ever did it, Sam Walton was like, we own all the stores, we own the trucks, we own everything. We call fixtures and furniture, right?
Sure.
In the commercial real estate, we call that fixtures, everything, not nothing both. They own it, right? They have they're entirely vertically integrated. They own the supply chain. So as Dos Equis accelerates the country's move towards e-commerce and delivery retail, I think it makes sense to integrate the entire business's back end, but leaving that front end and saying, hey, you want to return your Bonobos pants because their idea of a big and tall is not the reality of your big and tall. You can just go return it at Walmart because that is a huge, benefit because Amazon did this with Kohl's. They partnered with Kohl's and you can just drop your stuff off at Kohl's. And for Kohl's, which they were suffering from people wanting to buy anything from Kohl's, I don't understand why anyone goes to Kohl's. I don't know why this store exists. Okay.
Well, but my wife does, and see that's why you don't get heavily demographic female, right?
Yes.
Walk through. It got people in their stores, right? So it was
yes.
It's a zero is sum for them. They're shipping stuff every day anyway, right? And the products to ship are next to nothing, which Amazon probably got them to carry the dime on that. You know what I mean? Of that because it increases the foot traffic into their store. More likely people are going to buy stuff. And I'll also tell you, I'll make a prediction now for your we're talking about warehousing, Walmart, Amazon, or whatever. Don't be surprised that sometimes in the next 5 years, you see Walmart, Amazon, and other distribution type places like that bundled together like Pepsi and Coke did with bottling plants and stuff like that. Why wouldn't Walmart lease out 20% of its space to Amazon in the same area, right? where
Right.
Amazon didn't have to go have their own thing. Now, Amazon might want to do that in certain places, but there's going to be other places where a partnership makes way more sense than taking on the risk of its own space when it's trying to expand in that marketplace, right? So don't be surprised if you see Walmart, grocery stores, other things like that start leasing space, just like Coca-Cola does for Pepsi, Pepsi does from Coca-Cola in different places, where they finally come to an agreement where, like, look, we're all going to save money coming from the same spot.
And listen, there's a Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. He has this saying that I remember all the time. He said it one time. He says, "Why would we compete when we can collude?"
Absolutely.
And
Why
I
be
think
enemies when we can be friends and all make
yes.
money?
So, and I think you're right, but I don't think it's going to be Amazon and Walmart doing it. I think it's going to be smaller retailers going, "Hey, we can together, we can be like
Sure.
Voltron here, put our parts together, and we can compete with, and we can just set up some sort of affiliate agreement, whatever." And but Amazon already does this with the United States Postal Service because in rural
Mm-hmm.
parts of this country, which is a lot of our country is rural,
Absolutely.
in order to facilitate 2-day delivery, they have warehouses where they set up a pallet and USPS just rips the pallet and they start delivery from
Mm-hmm.
we call that last mile. And for people in the kind of, hey, we got to privatize everything so Americans can have a future. We USPS does have one meaningful thing, and that's last mile. And you should rip USPS into shreds and sell last mile delivery to Amazon. They have the money and they want the service. But Marc Lore is leaving, okay, to go
Yeah.
start a smart city, which he says it's a 10-year project and it's going to have a version of a fixed version of they're going to repair capitalism. And let me just say this bothers me
Okay,
for so
first
many
of all, go back.
reasons.
He said at least 10 years. And then
Yeah,
later in the article, he said it's a lifelong journey, is what it's going to be. And he's not the first one to attempt this.
no.
They have talked about this since the mid 80s. There was a book that came out
I
that
mean,
was
isn't
something about.
the woodlands out in Houston, aren't they kind of they're a completely
Uh,
planned community?
yeah, they're completely planned, but the idea that there was some famous book that came out in the 70s, 80s that came out about this perfect neighborhood, right? The perfect
Utopia,
neighborhood, the
basically.
utopian neighborhood of we're going to build enough retail to sustain enough of the residents. It's also going to have enough businesses to hire everybody that lives there, and you know what I mean. And it's just this whole. It's this. What do they call those boxes where everything in it's able to live without any outside interaction? It's called an terrarium or
A terrarium.
a terrarium, and essentially create a livable life, right, with living people terrarium where they can work in the same place that they play, that the same place that they live, and all that stuff. And nobody, they even here in Leander talked about this when my wife and I first moved here in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. Leander was talking about building one of these types of communities and trying to get it off the ground. I have yet to see one actually get out of the development stage and actually be built because it never reaches. Now, not to say that it won't. It's a great idea, but I don't know that we're there yet. Now, we're closer now with technology.
Let me tell you why I think it's a dumb concept. Number one, if you change capitalism as one definition, it's complete laissez-faire free markets. And if you change the definition of that, it stops being capitalism, it starts being something else.
Absolutely.
And in our society, we unfortunately have this problem where everyone continues to blame the free market for something where it's like, well, actually, there's no free market in healthcare, for instance. And none of this is like, this is all idiocy to me. All right. Well, let me put it to you this way. I think it's cool that this guy's trying. Okay. I am a member of the Seasteading, I would like to become a member rather of the Seasteading Institute, which is trying to buy up used oil platforms in international waters and set up free libertarian societies. I'm game for it. Okay. I'm about it, dog. I'm
Okay, those
about it.
places were not to set up life, so it would take a whole hell of a lot of redoing an oil rig.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
that's
know if
fine.
you've ever actually seen or been on an oil rig, I
No.
have. It's not a place that you want to be. But
Okay.
I get what you're saying. Okay, but
So I'm saying I appreciate that inclination, but you're stupid and you're like, well, it's going to have a reformed version of capitalism. Yeah, I know, like Stalin and the other guy with the H, and I won't even say his name because we already are afraid of getting tagged here. Like,
I think
I'm
this
not
is the
going to,
definition of a pipe dream, right? Like
it
it
is,
is.
listen, because here's the problem. Here's the number one problem, and then we'll move on to the next story because I don't want to beat this dead horse.
Yeah,
The kinds of people that want to live like this don't have the money it takes to live like this. You have to give
absolutely.
them the money.
Right.
Okay. And at some point you go, oh, wait, you people are never going to produce anything that will result in value that can justify the way you're going to have to. It won't. You just have to. It's a black hole, and those people, you just have to. It's a black hole. It's a bonfire you're going to have to keep burning your money at. And they don't. Marc Lore, unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurs don't have a better grasp on human nature.
Right.
Economics is something, and I'm an economics nerd from like, I just sat and listened to lectures from Robert Higgs, and there's a couple other economists that I like, but I just sat there and learned. And the problem is they have a better handle on human nature than business people do.
Well, because what we, especially in a environment that we live in, being 80% of our economy is ran by a consumer driven, right?
Yeah.
Analyzing what that 80% does will tell you everything about human nature you want. That's why economists can tell you about human nature and about trends and stuff like that, whether you like it or not, because that's how our economy pushes forward. And what people choose to do with their hard-earned money tells you a lot about what's coming
Yeah,
and going and what works and doesn't work. The only kind of that fairy tale only happens in a rich person environment where the second class doesn't live there, meaning the working class that makes that works in the restaurants that feed those rich people that live there don't live there. They all come in, right? And then it's not really a terrarium or whatever you call it, right? Then it's not really a utopia. It's a utopia for the people that live there. But if again, and this sounds like this is why sci-fi exists. This is always the sci-fi future of things when they have this world where everybody's happy and everybody lives down the street where they grocery shop and does whatever. There's always a second class citizen that is getting trampled on to provide that for everybody else.
Well, I trample is an unfortunate turn of phrase.